Harvey Levin is the executive producer of TMZ.com, which has been breaking news on this case since the very beginning. Harvey, thank you for being here. So now you're saying it was Percocet. That's what your sources are saying to you. Tell us.
Multiple sources. What we are told is that this was a life-threatening overdose, and that the pilot landed this plane, and the situation was so dire that when the EMTs arrived, they decided to give him the save shot right there at the airport. They didn't wait until he got to the hospital. They needed to act quickly, and they did, and they were able to revive him and took him to the hospital, and that's when the doctor said, look, this guy is in bad shape, and he needs to stay here for 24 hours. His people said the only way he's going to stay here is if he gets in a private room, because we don't want everybody knowing that Prince is here, especially under these circumstances in the light of day. And the doctor said, look, there's no private room for him here. And Prince's people said, then we are out of here. And 3 hours later, they were on a plane going back to Minnesota against doctors' advice.
Any description of the condition that he was in on that airplane?
We are told dire. I mean, we are told this was a true... Remember, Megan, he was 48 minutes away from his home in Minnesota, and it would have been much easier for him to deal with this if it was at all possible there. But they had to make this stop in Moline. It was when you think about it, he was coming from Atlanta. It was 1 in the morning. And if he's landing in Moline and has to be rushed to a hospital in a strange town for him, you know how serious the situation is.
Especially when people are reporting about the speed with which the plane descended. I mean, obviously there was a true emergency on board. And so obviously Prince had some hip issues. There are some reports that he had a hip replacement. He often had a cane out on stage with him, which many of us believed was a prop, you know, to dance with, but it may have been something more than that. I mean, is that what you're hearing, that perhaps he had this was due to hip pain?
We are told that around 2010, he had hip surgery. I mean, it really was not well known that this happened, but he had hip surgery. And before the hip surgery, he was in a lot of pain, and he was on painkillers. What I cannot tell you is whether he continued taking that pain medication and whether it was Percocet after the hip surgery, whether he became addicted to it, whether he stopped and then started again. But I do know that based on all the sources we have in Moline, that this was Percocet. And Megan, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. We got this picture of Prince at a Walgreens hours before he died at 7:30 at night on Wednesday. And we're told by witnesses there that he was agitated, he was pacing in the parking lot, and this was his 4th trip in almost as many days to that Walgreens for prescriptions. So again, these are building blocks that the authorities are using in Minnesota to try and figure out what happened to Prince and whether this did indeed involve drugs. They've done a toxicology on him. It will take 2 weeks for the results to come back.
And the family will be in charge of what happens with Prince's body. Do you have any information on what happens next there, Harvey?
We are told that the body has been released to Prince's next of kin, and they are planning a private ceremony that will be followed by some kind of public memorial.
It's been incredible to see the outpouring of love and support for him tonight. Harvey, thank you so much. Great to see you as always.
Okay, Megan.